Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters. My name is Adam Torres, and if you'd like to apply to be a guest in the show, just head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, so today is a very special episode. We're bringing Sally Handlon back on the show. We're celebrating her recent book launch, and of course, we're also going to talk about Sally's other book. So we got a lot to cover today. Sally is the founder of Handlon Business Resources. First off, hey, Sally, welcome back to the show.
It's great to be here, Adam. Glad to be here with you and the audience.
So we've been on this publishing journey now together for, I don't know, going on a year or so. And I'm so thrilled to announce and to get into your book and the book that we launched together, of course. But before we do that, I know you've been on the show. You know the drill. We'll start this episode the way that we start them all, with what we call our Mission Matters Minute. So, Sally, we at Mission Matters, we amplify stories for entrepreneurs, executives, and experts. That's our mission. Sally, what mission matters to you?
Well, Adam, I've been giving this a lot of thought since the first time we did this. And one of the things that seems to weave its way throughout my long career is something that a motivational speaker named Zig Ziglar said back in the 70s. And that was, if you help enough people get what they want, you will get what you want. And whatever I've done in my career, I've sort of kept that out there as making sure that I help other people get what they want. I consider myself to be a connector and an educator. So I'm trying to help them move along in their journey as well.
Yeah, I'm a big Zig fan. I watch it. I listen to him all the time on YouTube. And for anybody that hasn't known, let's just say the next generation, look him up if you haven't.
Yeah, he was great. Yeah.
Well, let's just dive right in. I know you've been on the show prior, but I don't want to assume that all our new audience and maybe our new listeners have seen some of our previous work. So let's just start with your background. Like how did you get started?
How did I get started? Well, my main business right now is Handlon Business Resources, as you mentioned, and that is a short-term project-oriented support for business owners and execs. And what I decided after years in the financial arena was that people needed help understanding what the financial folks wanted, and the financial folks needed help understanding what the business owner was going through. So I sort of combined that into Handlon Business Resources and made that a short-term project support. So I'm in and out based on what the need is, and it's not a long-term commitment.
No, that's great, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But I want to get into this writing. I want to get into this book, and both books, by the way. So I want to start with your book, actually. So let's tee this one up, because I think it's going to build. It kind of bridges over into all the other content. So your journey to aging well. First off, what was the inspiration for this?
Well, the inspiration for this was really my mother. She was getting older and not handling a lot of things well, and I didn't understand what was going on. I had always had an interest in health and wellness. As a matter of fact, my career in that area has been about 50 years. So I wanted to get more educated. So I took a couple of courses, and one was on herbs as medicine, and then the other one was on integrative nutrition. And what I found and what I questioned was, why didn't I know some of this stuff that these teachers were telling us? Why didn't I know? I mean, I realize I went to health classes, in the last century, but, things have changed quite a bit, but some of the things were basic. And I felt if I didn't understand that, and if I didn't know the consequences of my choices, a lot of other people don't either. So I really wrote that as a primer for most people to understand their choices in key areas that affect their health and wellness.
Yeah. And so just to be clear, like, you didn't have a strong background on this. You took classes, you started to learn, you really put yourself in the learner's seat, and that's how you came up with the book. Am I off on that, or?
No, you're correct. I mean, although I had started my career in health and phys ed and then went into recreation out of college, that became more of a avocation than a vocation as I was on this journey. And so I used the ensuing years, maybe about 20 years, and tested things on myself just because I was interested. How did this work? How did that work? What was my endurance like? And then I started to get serious in 2000
Mhm.
and started taking my herbal classes and herbal workshops. And that culminated in 3 years of herbal studies. And so I would understand what our plant environment provides us and how we can use that. And then there was a missing link there, and I couldn't figure that out. But my business had started, and I really didn't
Mhm.
have time to spend on my avocation at that point. But about 6 years later, 7 years later, I figured out nutrition was the piece that I was missing and not
Wow.
understanding. So I took a course in nutrition from the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and that
Mhm.
sort of pulled everything together. And the book was my goal to help others understand what was going on with our choices.
Now, I always find it interesting to myself. Like, there's different types of authors, and maybe there's some that have done both, by the way. But I find some authors, they go and they write on things maybe they didn't know, and it becomes this odyssey or this thing to learn more, so that they can then create the book. And it's not necessarily that you went on this journey to write this book, but you went on this journey to learn more. And then, as you learn more, then at some point that came up. Other authors, maybe sometimes they write what's in their wheelhouse, like they were like my first book when I was years ago, when I was a financial advisor. I wrote about managing money because I had 14 years in that business at that time.
Mhm.
No longer do that, but so I was writing what I knew. But I find it super interesting, the opposite. Like, that's one of my dreams, is to find something that I'm passionate enough about, just outside of my normal day to day, where I want to go down that odyssey of like learning more, to the point to where I could write a book. What would you tell to some others that are out there, that maybe are on this path of learning new skills, when it comes to that next step of if it makes sense for them to make it into a book? Because that's
Well,
not an easy task. That's not an easy journey that you went through to go to create this book.
no, it wasn't. But you know what? It was a wonderful journey.
Yeah.
I've loved every minute of it. When I started to write the book, it was just like it just flowed. Um,
Mm,
I would say to most people, if you have a passion and if you want to share that passion with
mhm.
others, the best way to do it is to try and get it out of your head
Yeah.
onto paper, or digitally, however it works for
Yeah.
you. But start to share that, because
Mm,
I did some research yesterday, Adam, and
mhm.
what happens, at least in my arenas, my wheelhouses here, in health, wellness, and fitness. If you do Google searches,
Yeah.
there are over 369 million sources of information between websites, blogs,
Just a
books,
few.
just a few. And then I did the same thing, and I'll talk about that for the
Mhm.
management part. And how there's so much out there. Where do you begin? If you have somebody that you trust that has the knowledge,
Mhm.
person that is really interested,
Mhm.
share it, because people can't find out about it. They're overwhelmed with everything else that's out there.
Yeah, it's so true. Like, to have a trusted source, and I think that's why individuals that are, I guess the term we use nowadays is influencers. They
Right.
used to just be called experts. It was somebody that spent a lot of time, was a trusted source and a trusted name in a field. So if you saw their name attached to something, then and you saw their journey of what it took for them, whether it was education or years of study or practice, or whatever it was, you were like, oh, okay, this is a trusted source, right? So it's a pretty common thought process, but not easy to find. And as you mentioned, like trusted and reliable sources for your
Hmm.
information, because it can get overwhelming when you're just on the internet doing a random search.
Yeah. And the thing that I wanted to do with mine is I didn't want to tell people what to do, but I wanted to give them sort
Mm-hmm.
of the background of understanding. Make your own choices. I'm
Yeah.
not going to tell you that one size fits all here, but
Mhm.
and I think that's important too. Don't have the expectations that just because you've shared it, that people are automatically going to follow it.
Oh yeah, that's great. Well, let's flip back and forth on these, because I do want to
Mhm.
cover both books. So in our book that we did together, your topic in your chapter was called "Building a Stronger and More Sustainable Bottom Line." So just some of the
Correct.
things that you wrote about. So introduction, drink, move, eat, sleep, people, planet, profit, and place. For everybody listening, just so you know, we're going to go through some of these. But we're not going to go through them all. Why? Because, well, number one, we want you to go buy that book. But also,
Absolutely.
I do sell books. I am a publisher. No, not shy about that one, Sally.
They
um,
can't
well,
be.
So let's start with what was your inspiration for bringing this content to our audience?
Um, well, as I said in just a few minutes ago,
Mm-hmm.
we get overwhelmed with information
Yeah.
and what is out there. And I had been in management in a financial institution for a number of years, and I kept looking for sources and resources. And where do you go? How do you follow? The same search that I did yesterday on health and wellness, on business growth and strategy and management. There's over 26 billion sources available. And so, like with my book, my first book, what I wanted to do is boil things down. What are the key and critical areas that you could use in this changing environment and still sort of keep steady to your mission and your vision if you
Yeah.
understand these four and communicate these four? So, and you can't do any of that if you don't have a healthy workforce. If you as a leader aren't healthy, if your workforce isn't healthy,
Mm-hmm.
things aren't going to happen. So that's sort of the marriage of the two concepts coming together, basic components for you to maintain good health so you make good decisions and your brain is working fine and muscles are moving correctly. If you do that, then there are four what are pillars they used to call them, but four
Mm-hmm.
core values that I think are extremely important for businesses. And that, as you sort of mentioned, people, planet, profit, and place are the four areas that I think any business can use and build upon that and sort of navigate through what's happening today.
Yeah. Let's go further into Handlon resources and your Handlon, excuse me, business resources and your current project. So as we kind of open up the interview, you mentioned that certain people are maybe missing things, whether when it comes to financing, whether they're, trying to make that connection to, get funding for different projects or longer term funding, and they're just not speaking that right language. So I've heard, of things like outsourced CFOs and things of this nature, but can you maybe just talk a little bit more about what you're doing?
Okay. What I learned in my years in banking and finance,
Okay.
which is covering about a 40-year period as well,
Mhm.
is that there was a misunderstanding for borrowers. As a banker, when
Mhm.
I would share what the criteria was and how the borrower needed to provide information, it was like I get this blank stare. They
Mm.
really didn't understand what was going on. Then when I got on the financing side, I realized that a lot of the financiers that my clients were going to didn't understand the small business world. And that's
Mm.
predominantly who I deal with is small business.
Mhm.
So what I tried to do was bridge the two. I've got the banking, finance, lending, commercial and consumer
Yeah.
lending background. I've got 3 or 4 small businesses under my belt. So I try to bring the two together so that the banker knows that they're getting the good information and it's really solid. The
Mm.
borrower, the potential borrower, understands why the bank is asking for guarantees, why the bank wants to have co-signers,
Yeah.
so that everything can run smoothly. And so I've put together what I call a financial presentation
Mm.
that's almost like a business plan, but it's really just geared towards getting financing.
Yeah. And so looking at, and I know there's many. I don't want to like lump everybody under this, but when you start working with a new company, a new business, and again, you have a lot of experience in this, what are some of the things that are typically like wrong, like that stick out? It's like time and time again, you're like, oh, we got to take that, we got to take care of that. That's going to be a big deal.
Well, they're
I know
not
there's a
really.
lot, and I know it varies by business, size, industry, but just some of
Sure.
those glaring themes that
Yeah.
happen time and time again.
I think probably not really understanding their cash flow cycles and the
Mm.
fact that it does flow up and down.
Yeah.
Um, that people have to be prepared for. I've received so many business plans where people
Mhm.
look at their projections for revenue, and for the next 3 years, it's just going up and up and up and up. They're not putting any kind of seasonality or understanding
Yeah.
what their client base
Mm.
is like and how it moves within what their product cycle is.
Mm.
That's probably the major one that I've seen over the years.
So circling back to you as a learner within health and wellness, and aging, I know that we last talked and I kind of cut you off a little bit, and I'm like, I think you're taking some more courses, or you just finished another one and you're continuing your progression. Like tell me more about that one. I believe it's on water. Yeah.
Yes, this one is on water. What I learned through
By the
my
way, Sally, real quick, I just have to say I'm so excited when you continue to learn more and do more, because then I get to learn more. Like, you're my trusted source. So I'm like, all right, Sally's biting off more than I want to chew. So come on, go get that information for us, please. Go ahead.
Well, what I learned when I took both my herbal class and my integrative nutrition class
Hmm.
is that one of our key components to keeping ourselves healthy and the environment healthy is water, and having good, clean water to help us grow, nourish us, land and individuals.
Hmm.
And we're not doing a very good job of that right now. Our environment is really taking it on the chin for a lot of things that it shouldn't have to. So
Yeah.
my thought was, let me get into understanding water, where it comes from, how it's affected, what we can do, so that again people can make choices. I think we all can heal this earth for as much as we've screwed it up at this point by each taking individual steps. So my first step is to really concentrate on water, all aspects of water.
Yeah.
Did you know that water we're drinking today is also water that probably was millions of years ago that the dinosaurs drank?
I did
It
not know
just
that.
it just sort of recycles. And unfortunately, we're impacting the recycle capabilities of our earth right now. So I want
Hmm.
people just to be aware of all this stuff, so that when they're making a decision about, do I plant this? Do I farm this? Do I, throw this water out? Do I take a long shower? They understand what it's all
Yeah.
about. So I took a course this spring on water stewardship. It was offered by our local Penn State University. It was a great course. Picked up a lot of information. And I know I'm doing more research continually on that, because I really want to have the most up to date. And with the way the
Hmm.
environment is changing so rapidly, I need to get it out there.
Yeah. And I got to ask the $1 million question here. Is there no pressure, any plans on writing something on this, or incorporating it into another edition or something else like down the line? Or I got to ask you, come on.
Well, my working title is Your Journey to Healing Our Earth, and the first
Wow.
is water. And I may then, go into other segments
Mhm.
after I finish that book. But
Oh,
that's
wow. That's
that's the
so
plan.
exciting. And I cannot wait to continue to read your writing. I mean, I like the work that you've already created, of course. And now that I know that this one's coming out, I mean, my audience, myself, like, we're just going to be that much more educated on this. So this is awesome to me. Well, Sally, I just want to say, it's been great having you back on the show. It's exciting to promote these books with you. So we're gonna have, for everybody watching this, we'll have links to Sally's book, and then also the other one that we co-authored together, in the show notes.
Is this one?
There we go. Come on. I just have to ask. I mean, so you're working on the new book. Just in general, I mean, what's next? What's next for you? What's next for you, for your creative expression?
My creative expression. I think probably just focusing on getting that book together is
Yeah,
what I've got to do now, because I've sort of
that's a
been
big
playing
one.
with it.
That's a big one. I'm like, ooh, we just finished this other book. I'm like, good for you. Books are hard.
Well, thank you. And I appreciate the opportunity to be a part of Mission Matters and a part of your podcast. Thank you very much, Adam.
We appreciate you and you being a part of our community. That being said, if somebody wants to follow up and they want to learn more about your writing or your business or anything else, I mean, what's the best way for our audience to connect?
Well, there's basically three ways. There's LinkedIn. You can find me
Mhm.
on LinkedIn. My business address is Sally at hbrllc.com.
Mhm.
So that one gets through to the business part. And then
Yep.
my health wellness is Sally at bodyconstruction.me.
Fantastic. And we'll put all that information in the show notes so that our audience can just click on the links and head right on over. And speaking of the audience, if this is your first time with Mission Matters or engaging in an episode, we're all about bringing on business owners, entrepreneurs, and executives and having them share their mission, their reason behind their mission, what gets them excited and fired up to go out into the world and make a difference day in and day out. If that's the type of content that sounds interesting or fun or exciting to you, we welcome you. Hit that subscribe button. We have many more mission-based individuals coming up on the line, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Sally, as always, it's a pleasure working with you. Thanks again for coming back on the show.
Sure. Thank you so much, Adam. Really appreciate it.